What's up everybody, welcome back to a brand new video on Lex Alexis. Today we're going to be reviewing the pre-season games of every team in the Championship. As the season is right around the corner, 2 weeks time, we're going to have the season kicking down our doorsteps. The 22-23 season is nearly here and all 24 Championship teams have played some preparation games in for of the new season. Some teams have looked like that they've been prepared better than others, and we're going to review the results and the upcoming games that all 24 teams will have to face, with the new season on the horizon. So we'll have a good discussion on who looks like that they're ready and who looks like they've still got a little bit of work to do. If you guys like what you see, please give the video a like. It does tremendously help for the channel. Please do hit the subscribe button. It really does help the growth of this channel if you do that, and please also share the channel too. All of that helps as well. But without any further ado, let's review all the current Championship teams' progress with their pre-season games so far. Let's start off alphabetically. We'll go with Birmingham. Now, Birmingham have played a handful of games so far. Two of them really stick to mind. They beat Burton with their first game 2-1 at the Pirelli Stadium. And it looks like it was Sam Cosgrove who scored the winner for Birmingham. Cosgrove, who's been a player that's not really been involved with Birmingham. He's been loaned out a lot of the time when he's been a Birmingham player. Normally does tend to get a good pre-season goal, but will he hit the first team? We're just going to have to find out there. The other pre-season game Birmingham played was a 1-1 draw with Portimonense. Now, I don't know if that's how you say it right, but they're a Portuguese team. And apparently, Uriton is the one who scored for Portimonense. But then it was Scott Hogan that got the equalising goal for Birmingham. Junior Bacuna apparently being the one supplying the assist. So, well done for those two there. Bacuna already feeling like he's going to be a really important player next year. So with the upcoming friendlies that Birmingham has to play pretty soon, they've got to play against Cheltenham very, very soon, and they're going to face Rayo Vallecano. Now, they were definitely in La Liga. They may be in the Segunda Division now. I need to check on this, but they were most definitely a La Liga team not so long ago. So I think that'll be a very interesting test. Cheltenham have played quite a fair few Championship teams for their pre-season friendlies, which you'll find out whilst I go through all the other Championship and pre-season games. Blackburn have actually played a couple of pre-season games. One notable one was a 2-2 draw they had against Celtic at Celtic Park, actually. Apparently, Celtic really got the control right at the beginning. They actually led 30 seconds within that game. Another game that Blackburn played was against another Scottish team, Dundee. Apparently were really dominant in that game, but they were full of graduates there. It was a 1-1 draw, as I said. It was what we call the trialist players. He managed to get a touch on Phillips's header, apparently going across goal there. The host really provided a quick fire response, so it was Blackburn who took the lead. But Zubiak managed to get the equaliser for Dundee there. However, we're going to talk about our first defeat of the day in terms of pre-season games, and it was Accrington Stanley that managed to beat Blackburn by 2-0. Jack Bale scored one, and he managed to make the other goal. So that was a defeat for Blackburn in that time, but apparently it was a real youthful team. Now, this was also a game that was two separate games. Sometimes in pre-season games you get one 60-minute game and another 60-minute game. So Accrington beat Blackburn in the first one, but apparently Blackburn beat them in the second game. So it's not so bad in the end of it. In terms of upcoming friendlies Blackburn have got to play, they've got to play against Hartlepool on Wednesday, and they've got to play against Lincoln on the Saturday. So lower league opposition, but I think it should make things very interesting. I think Blackburn holding a bit of good amount of promise so far. The fact that we managed to get, this 2-2 draw with Celtic, for instance, I think will make things very, very interesting. Diaz already been on the score sheet as well, which is exciting. Blackpool we'll talk about now. Now, they had a good handful of games. So, they actually had one win out of those pre-season games, and it was against Southport, not to get confused with Stockport. Southport are a completely different team in the National League. They managed to get a 2-0 victory against them, with CJ Hamilton and Lubala getting the 2 goals. But they followed that up with a 4-0 defeat away from home against Leeds United. In terms of the goal scorers, Robin Koch managed to get the first goal, and then it was Junior Firpo that managed to get the second goal there. Rodrigo managed to get a goal as well, and Joseph was the other one that got the other goal for Leeds United. So a very comfortable victory for Leeds United there. And the other pre-season game for Blackpool was a 2-1 defeat to Rangers, so not quite promising. I think it was more or less Rangers being the better team, but Blackpool had their spells. Rangers were very comfortably in the lead, and what disappoints me a little bit is the description of their first goal, a mix-up at the back for Blackpool, presented Barisic with a shooting chance, and he scores. So we can't have these defensive mistakes this late on in terms of your preparation, because you're going to really concede a lot of very silly goals if you don't iron out those mistakes. Now, with their upcoming games, they've got Salford away tomorrow, and they've got Everton at home on the Sunday. So that's going to make things very, very intriguing. So far, I'm a little bit nervy with Blackpool, but maybe with one of those games between Salford and Everton, maybe they can prove me wrong otherwise. Bristol City have had a couple of pre-season games. Cheltenham managed to get involved in their first one with a 2-0 defeat on their part. Tanner managed to put Bristol City in front. Then Cameron Pring was involved with the second goal, where Conray managed to make it 2-0, and that was despite Chris Martin missing a penalty in that game as well. In terms of the other game, there was a 0-0 draw between Bristol City and Portsmouth. Not much to really say about that. And then Bristol City beating Plymouth by 1-0 away from home. So apparently with only 10 minutes left off the clock as well. So it was a very late goal apparently. And Sykes winning the ball. And I think it was Naki Wells that actually managed to get the goal for Bristol City. With their upcoming games, they've got Forest Green and they've got Exeter in the same day tomorrow. So potentially they may send one squad out to Forest Green and another squad to Exeter maybe, because they are quite far away, both of them. And they've got Bournemouth away as well on the Saturday. So a very big contrast of tests there, but definitely Bristol City getting those minutes in, and what I will say, not conceding many goals, and that's something I really want Bristol City to work on, which is their back line. Now for Burnley, it's interesting with this. So they beat Rochdale by 1-0. Scott Twine getting the goal, so that excites me already, but he's already starting to find the back of the net in a Burnley shirt. But they managed to get a defeat against Wolves 3-0, and it was a pretty comfortable defeat as well. Unfortunately, I couldn't really find who scored the goals. Some of these games are very privy in terms of information, especially when they're behind closed doors as well, where that game was, I believe. And another moment that Burnley had in pre-season was a 3-1 victory over Shrewsbury. Now, Samuel Bastian, new signing, managed to get the goals there, and academy players Tucker and Bobby Thomas managed to get the other 2 goals. So they did pretty well there overall. In terms of Cardiff, they had a pretty decent pre-season. They beat Cambridge by 3-0. A stunning game to start things off right off the bat. James Collins managed to get the first goal. Of course, he's not a Cardiff player anymore, not for this season at least. Harvey Nibbs managed to get 1 goal back for Cambridge, but then Max Waters and Joel Bagan managed to make it 3-1 before Janet made things interesting and made it 3-2 at the end. Another game is between the 2 Welsh clubs, Cardiff and Newport. It ended 2-0 to Cardiff. Apparently a quick-fire double from Gavin White and James Kroll managed to make the difference in that game. And Cheltenham make another appearance. Cardiff beat them literally on the Saturday by 2-1. Mark Harris and Max Waters managing to score the goals for Cardiff. So that's very interesting. Upcoming games, Shrewsbury. So Shrewsbury also played a lot of championship teams as well in their pre-season. They're playing them tomorrow actually. And they're playing Swindon on the Saturday. So not many games. I think on the whole, most championship teams are going to have up to 2 pre-season games left, and definitely they want to give themselves a week break in preparation for the new season. Now we go to Coventry. Coventry have had a very interesting pre-season. So their first game was against Leamington. They won by 3-1. It was very, very confident there. I mean, Dan Turner actually scored for Leamington first, but Coventry from behind manages to get the win in the end. Matty Godden manages to score 2 goals, and then Fabio Tavares gets the other goal. One of the most eye-catching results was a 3-1 victory against Nottingham Forest away from home. Now, in spite of actually controlling quite a fair bit of the game, it was Forest who scored first with Ioanu managing to get the goal. But Matt Godden managed to get one of the goals back to make it 1-1 there. And then Tyler Walker scoring a brace. I've got to say, fair play to the lad. He did really, really well there. They also beat Forest Green by 1-0 behind close scores as well. Ben Sheaf getting the goal in that game. And they also beat Oxford United by 2-0 with Jonathan Panzo, their new signing, getting 2 goals. He was announced on a Wednesday, and within 3 days later, he scores a brace in his first pre-season game. I tell you what, I think Coventry fans were a little bit excited about that moment there. Upcoming games that they've got Walsall away tomorrow, and they've got Portsmouth away in the weekend. So it should make things very interesting for Coventry season. Huddersfield pre-season now looks like this. So Huddersfield beat Morecambe by 3-1. A really great start there. Jackson managing to get a brace in that game. But they follow that up with a 1-0 defeat to Yorkshire rivals Harrogate Town. It was Lewis Richards who managed to score the 30-yard volley. It was a stunning goal. And then they followed that up with Schofield's first game in charge as new manager, and they lose 1-0 to Doncaster. It was a nothingy game, I've got to be honest. There was nothing really to take from this game. The only difference was a penalty conceded by Avina, and it was converted by the Doncaster trialists. That's all I can really say about that one, unfortunately. In terms of the upcoming games, they've got Tranmere away and they've got Bolton away. And I think it's going to be like 2 separate squads because they're actually going to play them both on the same day. I know they're up north, but it'd be a bit insane if the same squad had to travel from one place to the next. So definitely 2 separate squads playing 2 different games there. Yeah, I mean, 2 defeats against no opposition. Not a great start for Huddersfield, isn't it? Hull have had an interesting pre-season as well, with a defeat and a win within their pre-season. So they lose Fenerbahce 2-0 at the start of their pre-season. 2 goals in the final 3 minutes apparently. So actually in the 87th minute it was 0-0, which would have been an entirely different scoreline, but their resistance broke unfortunately at the wrong time. Goudier and Dursan getting the goals for Fenerbahce. Then they beat Malaga by 3-1, which I think is quite a great result for them. Jacob Greaves involved, Alfie Jones as well. Upcoming games that Hull have got, they've got to play against Leicester on the Wednesday, which is interesting, and then Cambridge and Peterborough both away on the Saturday, so that should make things very exciting. Hull have actually still got a lot of their pre-season left to go. Luton Town have had an interesting pre-season as well. They started off with a 3-0 victory against Hitchin Town. You probably would expect that. It was an entirely different starting 11 in both halves as well, which we're going to see a lot of in these preseason games as well. Then they played against NK Bravo, which I never heard of. They beat them by 2-1 in that game. Cornick actually managed to get involved in that one because it ended 1-1, so they had to go to extra time to get a win in there, and Cornick was the one clutch in that moment there. And their most recent ones were from against lower league opposition, 2-1 to Gillingham, Cameron Jerome involved in that, and a 2-1 win over Northampton. And we had a bit of a standing ovation for Danny Hilton. Of course, he's now at Northampton, but was a big part of Luton's squad, especially getting promoted from League 2 to the Championship. So definitely a very poignant moment in that part. In terms of upcoming games for Luton Town, they've got Huddersfield away and they've got Peterborough away, both tomorrow. So I think they're going to separate 2 squads there, and they're going to play West Ham as well. So very ambitious last couple of games for their pre-season, but that should make things very interesting. A really good challenge for Luton Town, who still remain undefeated. From Middlesbrough, they've had a mixed bag. They've had a 5-0 win over Bishop Auckland. I mean, I probably would expect that. So Riley McGree managed to get involved in that one. Tommy Smith managed to get into the goal scoring. Jake Steele managed to get a goal as well. Callahan and Coburn were the other 2 goal scorers there. Then they beat York City, who were recently promoted back to the National League after going up, I believe, via the playoffs. Correct me if I'm wrong, National League fans. But Kavanagh managed to get 2 goals there, so he gets back on the score sheet after scoring against Bishop Auckland there. And then Finch managed to get into the goal scoring form to get the victory. But they lose 3-0 to Portuguese outfit Braga, who are a pretty good team. They have played in the Europa League, and they were, I believe, quarter-finalists in the Europa League very recently. I think they got knocked out to Rangers. I could be wrong on that. But Medeiros managed to get a brace, and that was pretty much what set them apart in that game. Now, their upcoming games, they've got Morecambe away tomorrow, and they've got Marseille at home as well. So Marseille have been playing a couple of championship games, actually. They played against one of them, which I'll talk about very soon. But yeah, that's interesting. I think 2 very different teams, and Middlesbrough on the whole been alright, but obviously I think Braga was almost like a bridge too far, I felt, for me. Millwall have had a good couple of games. They beat Colchester, my sort of local team in the EFL, by 1-0. Jake Cooper getting the only goal in that game. They also beat Dartford by 2-0 away from home. Afobe and Bury managed to score a stunning goal. I saw the goal back and it was absolutely unbelievable what Tyler Bury managed to do there. But then the thrilling game was their first pre-season game where it was a 9-goal thriller against Crystal Palace. 5-4 it ended. I mean, I've not got all the goal scorers, but I can note down that Charlie Cresswell scored his first goal for Millwall in that game. We also had Benteke and Ayew scoring for Palace. We had Zian Fleming, I believe, scoring his first goal as a Millwall player as well. So it was a really good moment, actually, for those new signings to get their moments. But unfortunately, it did end up in defeat. Their upcoming games involve Hammarby, which I have no idea who they are, but they've got to play them on the Wednesday. And they've got to play against Ipswich at the Den on the Saturday as well. So interesting for Millwall. And I've got to say, entertaining stuff so far. A 9-goal thriller in a friendly is always something that's always going to catch your eye, isn't it? We're speaking about a team that's faced Marseille in a pre-season friendly in the Championship, and that team was Norwich. But they beat them very convincingly. 3-0. Hugo getting both goals, really. In fact, he got a brace, but also Sorensen managing to get the third goal. They did really well in that game. They also beat Dereham by 4-0. Hugo again with a double. Dixon Peters with a goal and Dow with a penalty. They also beat Kings Lynn of the National League by 2-0 with Pukki and Solis getting the goals. And they recently drew against Regensburg of, I believe, in the German league. I don't mean the Bundesliga, but the second division of that, by 2 goals each. Their upcoming games involve Cambridge away tomorrow. Then they've got Celtic away and Hibernian away. So both of their weekend games are actually going to be against Scottish teams, which should make things very interesting. I think Norwich so far definitely with one of the most eye-catching results to beat Marseille away from home by 3-0. Fantastic result for the Canaries. Now for Preston, they've had a mixed bag. They beat Accrington by 1-0, where Accrington tend to do quite well in pre-season. It was Emil Reece-Jacobson with the goal, but Daniel Johnson did miss a penalty, so it could have been better by 1-0 there. They did lose in one of their pre-season games though against Getafe by 2-1. Ledson scored in the first minute of that game, which made things interesting, but Sosa managed to get a brace and he turned things around quickly. And Preston also lose to Tranmere behind closed doors, John Lonan scoring the only goal of the game. But Preston do manage to get a 3-0 win against Bamber Bridge, which was their first pre-season win. Ben Whiteman and Ben Woodburn, who actually wasn't officially signed, but he was a trialist at the time, and Mickey O'Neill getting the goals. In terms of their upcoming games, they've got Hearts away, and they've got Leicester at home. So 2 interesting games. I think Leicester at home is going to be very, very an interesting encounter between the 2 clubs, really. It'll be a Daniel Iverson derby. Now for QPR. Now QPR have had a real mixed bag. They drew 3-3 with Crawley. Great result, but they were 3-0 up in the first half. Sam Field and Macaulay Bond scoring 2 goals. But they threw it away in the second half. I don't know what they were doing, but Crawley, who are down in League 2, managed to get a draw out of it. Then they faced SSC Zwijku, I think, in the Dutch league, and I'm really sorry if I not pronounced their team right at all. But Dykes, Dozel, Johansson and Chair with the goals makes it 4-0. And then they recently drew against Halscher, which I think is another German lower league team. It was Damer who managed to put the home side event in 15 seconds actually. So we've had some quick goals before, but 15 seconds it took for Halscher to take the lead against QPR. But Macaulay Bonne again getting the equalising goal. Their upcoming games involve Wealdstone away on the Wednesday, and they've got Crystal Palace at home on the Saturday. Which should make things very, very interesting for QPR. What I'm noticing, a lot of goals conceded, but a lot of goals scored, which I think is definitely going to be one of the most common traits we're going to see with QPR with Michael Beale in charge. Now on to Reading. So Reading's pre-season has looked on the whole quite good. They beat Colchester by 2-0. So an own goal and Yaku Mate scoring a penalty were the difference. They did have a defeat in their pre-season, but it was against Benfica, to be fair to them, which is never easy to get a win. Bat and Gil Diaz, he managed to get the second goal for Benfica. Reading followed that up with a 4-0 victory over Maidenhead. Very comfortable victory there. Jeff Hendrick managed to score. Tom Ince, so new signings for Reading managing to get his goal. Then also Lucas Jow and Connor Wickham, who was basically trialling there, managed to score a penalty. And their most recent one, which was interesting, was a 1-1 draw against West Ham. So West Ham took the lead in that game. It was Vlasic who scored the first goal, but Yaku Mate managed to get the equalising goal with a terrific volley from the cross from McIntyre there. So a great point, actually, if it was such a thing against West Ham. So a brilliant result. They will have some more games of pre-season. They've got to face Wimbledon away tomorrow, and they've got Brighton at home on the Saturday. That should make things very exciting there. I've got to say, Reading's results have looked alright at the moment, I've got to say. Rotherham, now they have played a couple of pre-season games. They beat Parkgate by 4-2. I would expect that. I think Washington has been one of the best players that they've had in their pre-season matches so far. Rotherham beat Fleetwood by 2-0 behind closed doors. It was Georgie Kelly that manages to get the 2 goals for Rotherham. They also beat Harrogate by 3-0. Odofin, Barlaser and McGuckin managing to get the 3 goals for Rotherham there. However, they failed to beat Salford. They draw 1-1, and then the first half goal was the one for Rotherham, but they conceded late to Joel Horvey. And similar circumstances when they drew against Mansfield. It was Reece Oates who equalised for Mansfield, cancelling out Kayude's header. So disappointing for Rotherham in their last 2 pre-season games. They've still got to play Doncaster away tomorrow, and they've got to play against Crewe on the Saturday. So some good results, but against lower league opposition to get 2 draws in a row, Rotherham need to work on some things right now. Sheffield United have had a couple of pre-season games. They beat Casapia, I think that's how you say them, by 2-1. They did fall behind very early on in that game, but goals from Sander Berge and Daniel Jefferson manages to rescue Sheffield United from that game. They also smashed Lincoln by 6-0, but this game was split into 2 parts, 2 60-minute games each time. Now, in the first game, I think it was Osula that scored a brace in that game. And then in the second game, we saw Osborne, Burge and Ryan Brewster score a brace. So those 4 goals naturally added to Osula's first 2, which made it 6-0 overall between Sheffield United and Lincoln. So then we had the most shocking pre-season result, I think, so far. Scunthorpe 3, Sheffield United 2. Scunthorpe, as you know, were relegated into the National League. So they finished, in the bottom 2 places of League 2. And they pulled off a shock result against Sheffield United there. It was Colin Daniel and Bestin that managed to score for Scunthorpe. Brewster and Ndai trying to save them, but it wasn't enough. It was a great victory for Scunthorpe there. Their upcoming games, Sheffield United, involve Mansfield at home tomorrow, Burton away on the Friday, and Barnsley away on the Saturday. Now, I'm very intrigued for Sheffield United facing Barnsley. I think this will be a really, really good game. Yeah, on the whole, all right. Definitely did well against Lincoln and Casapia. They did well. But then to lose against Scunthorpe in that way, maybe they're not completely prepared as of yet. Now to Stoke City. So Stoke got a good start, beating Cork by 2-0. DiMaggio, Wright Phillips and Jacob Brown getting the goals. But they lose 2-0 to Accrington. So I said Accrington was going to be another championship team, and that team was Stoke. Sean McConville, their captain, getting a brace in that game. And then the most recent result with Stoke was a 1-1 draw against Fleetwood Town. And that is not encouraging whatsoever. And they have got a couple more games, to be fair. They've got to face Bristol Rovers away tomorrow. And they've got to face Hearts on the Saturday. So definitely not too much preparation, but right now I'm a little bit worried with Stoke, especially with their last 2 pre-season results. Here are Sunderland's pre-season results. So their most recent one was their 2-0 win over Dundee United. So this was a bit of a comical game in terms of the goals going in. Hume got the first one, and then Mulgrew did a long back pass which completely went past the goalkeeper and into the net. So one of the easiest, most comfortable wins for Sunderland in that whole pre-season. They did, however, get a defeat in one of their pre-season games against Roma, which I think, no disrespect, I think Roma were definitely going to be very, very confident going into that game. It was Gian and Zaniolo that managed to make it 2-0 in the end, but it was an interesting contest actually. One unfortunate game was when Sunderland were 1-0 up against Rangers, Luke O'Nien scoring the goal, but the game was called off due to a floodlight problem. So a bit of a shame, because I think Sunderland would have had a really interesting second half in that game. In terms of their upcoming games, they've got Bradford tomorrow. They've also got Accrington on the Saturday and Hartlepool on the Monday. Of course, Sunderland are playing quite late into the opening weekend, playing on the Sunday against Coventry, so they can squeeze one last pre-season game potentially on the Monday, and they've got to face Hartlepool for it. So I think that'll be very, very interesting. Swansea, they face Forest Green 3-2, so a 5-goal thriller. Liam Cullen getting the free kick that managed to get the winner in that game. Plymouth versus Swansea was next, and it ended 1-1. It was a draw. Ryan Hardy managed to get a late equaliser, cancelling out Joel Piro's volley. And then, for the most recent game for Swansea in their pre-season, was a 1-1 draw against Bristol Rovers. With their upcoming games, they've got Charlton away only. Now, with Watford, they've had a bit of a tumultuous start in their pre-season. So, their first pre-season game was a 3-1 defeat to Cambridge. So James Morris scores for Watford, but then Nibs, who managed to score one of Cambridge's goals in their narrow defeat, I believe, against Cardiff, and Ironside, Joe Ironside, managing to get 2 goals, a brace, to sink Watford by 3-1. Watford, they follow that up with a 0-0 draw against Panathinaikos, but then they lose 2-0 to Bolton. Kieran Lee and Afarian managed to get the first half goals in that game. They made a difference. But Watford will have a bit of encouragement. They managed to beat Wycombe in their latest pre-season game by 4-1. That's when their hard-hitting players were involved. Sarr scored, Dennis scored, Asperera scored the other goals as well. So there we go. We're getting more of the high-quality attacking players, and they are performing at least. So potentially Watford in their first couple of games were just testing out a couple of things there. With their upcoming games, they only have one more game left, and that is against Southampton on the Saturday, which should make things very, very interesting as well. Finally, the final team to talk about their pre-season is Wigan Athletic. They've had quite a few pre-season games actually. So they beat Bamber Bridge, likewise with Preston, their Lancashire rivals. They managed to beat them there 5-1. Callum Lang with 2 goals, Piers, McGuinness and Smith getting the other goals. Then they beat Bolton by 1-0. And then one of the most interesting results was Wigan facing Liverpool's youth squad, and they beat them by 6-0. It was very eye-catching there. And Jamie Carragher had a bit of a situation because his son, James Carragher, managed to score for Wigan, his first professional goal, I believe. But obviously it was against Liverpool as well, so he probably was a bit conflicted whether to celebrate that moment. And then their most recent result, which happened this weekend for Wigan, was their 3-1 away defeat against Oldham. James McLean, Callum Lang and Curtis Tilt getting the goals in that one. And in terms of their upcoming games, they've got Accrington Stanley. It seems like every team's got Accrington Stanley. They've got to play them tomorrow, and they've got to face Sheffield Wednesday at home on the Saturday. Now that, I think, is going to be a very interesting encounter indeed. So guys, this is me talking about all the pre-season games, about all championship clubs I've had so far. Definitely a couple that look a lot more prepared than others, but in the end of it, after this weekend, that is when we're going to get this season started. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give the video a like. It just tremendously helps the growth of this channel. Please do hit the subscribe button if you've not done so. It does really help. And please also share this channel as well. All of that helps too. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary for so many in this video. As always, I'll see you guys soon. Take care, everyone.